Well, from time to time, we hear from estate agents on the Isle of Man about the state of the property market. And talking to Nick the other week, we were doing an item, and we were having a discussion about what is the real state of the nation as far as the Isle of Man's going. Because, I mean, Nick, we hear, and it's not from you necessarily, but I mean, other estate agents have bigged it up over the last, well, since the recession started. Clearly, you may not believe them because, like journalists, I think, in the same sort of camp, the public's faith maybe is been shaken when
people keep saying
everything's fine in the garden.
Yeah.
It's not been.
No, I mean, if we go back over time, 2008, middle of 2008, the Isle of Man received the bad news that the UK had received 18 months earlier. It did take time to get it, so there was a bit of a buffer. But wow, did it hit? We had some torrid years. You had to be very careful with the bottom line of the running of your business. You had to look very closely at all of your income and outgoings. Sales were at very low levels, record levels. I mean, there was possibly 2/3 of the number of sales in the market were reduced. And that's a huge amount. Being left with only 1/3 of the sales that the island was used to having prior to the recession was a massive pain for the industry. So I think anyone saying that things were good, or have been saying since then that things have been good, on the same sheet as we have encountered.
And of course, the public know that because then their houses aren't shifting.
Exactly.
I mean, property in the Isle of Man was always more expensive in the UK by quite a bit. I mean, like London prices or Southeast prices.
And it still is. I mean, it is still an expensive place to purchase. Without fail, when buyers come to the island, they get surprised. You see their eyebrows rise as they're looking at what they're going to have to pay to move to the island, and it's supply and demand. There are a lot of wealthy people living on the Isle of Man or who have come to the Isle of Man. So we are still in a good position, and I'll come on to a bit of that, how well we've fared, because we have fared well. But I think for the purposes to answer your question and to put a bit of history to the Manx market, since that sort of mid-2008 period, sales and values have been hit. There was an awful lot of aspiration, in other words, what people were hoping to realise, and very little realisation in that period. So agents were guilty of this, sellers were guilty of continue to inflate what they were expecting to realise for a property without actually having any proof or any sort of comparable evidence, which is how the industry works, to how are we going to achieve those figures.
But time and time again, you know, the seller wants the most, the buyer wants to buy it for the least.
Yes.
They're not meeting, are they?
And the estate agent wants the business. So there are a number of factors pulling and pushing, which took a long time for people to realise that it wasn't going to change. And in fact, we needed to change. And that's what's happened. There has been quite a considerable change in terms of that aspirational price to what the realisational price was. And in some cases, you may be surprised to hear that's as much as 1/3 of what the property was on the market for.
But hasn't everything just stalled? I mean, we see so many for sale signs up everywhere. People aren't necessarily wanting to give up on that dream money that they think it's worth.
Yes.
They're going to sit tight, and the whole system seems to have stalled.
Yes. And yeah, that's exactly what it's done. I use the sort of phrase "it's stalled," but it's not. It's not fallen. And there are some good reasons for that. The Isle of Man's geography is one of the main ones we refer to in the industry, and that is that you don't have to move. You may wish to move, but you don't have to. If somebody is relocating in the UK and they're in the south of England and they get a new job in the north, you cannot commute. The Isle of Man, that is not an issue to us.
But many people have lost their jobs over here. The finance sector particularly has been hit, which was a very profitable area, no doubt for you.
Yes.
Those people have to leave the Isle of Man maybe to get their next job. Has that not made a glut of properties?
It has. Well, I mean, our stock levels as an industry have never been higher. I mean, we are probably almost treble of the stock that we used to hold back in 2007, 2008. You used to, in those days, you were always trying to replenish your stock because they were selling. And now that is not the case. So there's a huge glut of housing, which is on the market. But those properties, a lot of them have gone into the rental market because they haven't been selling. And a lot of the buyers that would have been buyers from the UK who haven't been able to sell in the UK had their property in the rental portfolio in the UK. So everything, as I say, stalls. But because there was quite a large amount of equity in the housing over here, those properties never got to the repossession stage. They never got to the real necessity to sell. So we had motivated buyers, but suffering from a lack of confidence, so they went into rented, and lack of motivation from the sellers, so the properties just stalled. And to bring this back to one of the good news parts is that if I said that in the height of the market, of the height of house price inflation, true house price inflation, was 2007, you may be surprised to hear that actually we are now at 2007 prices.
Okay.
And what that means is that we haven't actually dropped from the height of the market. And that is quite incredible, that the values that of which some of those are a third of what they aspired to be, are still actually at 2007. So it shows you how much extra was put into the market without being realised.
Okay. Much more to talk about on this, and we'll continue in our next section.